Live to launch the Miscreants. Thank you all for coming. We're just going to hang around for a few seconds while we wait for a few people to join. And while we're doing that, we will... no, that's not working. Okay, that's all right. It's not going to happen. All right, so hello, I can see people are starting to join us. So let's get underway. Thanks so much for joining us online today. This is the online book launch for the Miscreants. We did a beautiful launch in Melbourne last weekend, and we just snuck it in under the COVID lockdown by a matter of days. So we're really grateful to have been able to do that. So thank you to everyone for coming along and joining us for the online book launch as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Lynette Washington and I'm the publisher at Glimmer Press. And I'm just going to do a couple of quick thank yous before I hand over to Cameron Rains, who's going to tell you a bit about the Miscreants. So there are always lots of people involved in making a book. It's never just one person, the author. There's always lots of people on the sidelines as well. But I really did want to thank the author, particularly in this case, Christopher Hawkes, because he trusted me with his baby, and it's been a long road for us, thanks to COVID mainly, but it has been enjoyable every step of the way, and I've really loved working with Chris on this book, and I think we did a pretty good job as a team. I also want to thank Karen Crombie, because without her, this day really would not have come about. Karen's a freelance editor and she'd worked on Christopher's book, and she pointed it out to me one day and said that she thought it was really special and would I read it. And I said, yes, I would, but I couldn't actually commit to publish anything at that time because Glimmer Press was really just a fledgling and not ready to take on any authors. But by the time I'd read it and had a chat to Chris, I decided that I had to give it a crack because it really is a pretty amazing book, and I knew that if it wasn't me publishing it, I'd be very jealous of the person who did get to do that. So we decided to give it our best shot, and here we are today, nearly 2 years later, I think, with this amazing book to share with you all. I also want to thank Kristen Martin, who read an early draft and then proofread the final manuscript. Kristen's an amazing proofreader and she makes me look good as an editor, and she always does this work with such enthusiasm and generosity, and I really value what she does and appreciate her. Zena Shapter is our cover designer and she also does the internal layouts. We put her through the ringer to get to this cover, but I think we did a pretty amazing job and it looks really cool. So thank you so much, Zena, for doing that. We're really thrilled with how that turned out. I have to also thank Gay Lynch and Cameron Rains for writing endorsements for the front cover. They read early copies and had some very kind and generous things to say about the Miscreants, so thank you both for that. And Cameron Rains gets an extra thank you because he's really been an advocate for this book from day one. I approached him and asked him to read an early copy because I thought he would get it, and he did. And he's been there to offer support and advice and help the whole way, and he's been a real champion of this book. So thank you, Cam. Like I like to say, you're a damn good egg. So thank you for that. Finally, my last thank you is really just to all of you for supporting us today and for supporting Chris in particular. As an independent publisher, we really do rely heavily on people like you to be our advocates, to buy the book or to borrow it in your library. And if you like it, tell everyone, tell the world, put it on social media, do a Goodreads review, talk to people about it, because that's how little books like this get out into the world and get their readership going. So thank you very much. That's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Cam and he's going to tell you a bit more about the Miscreants. At the end, we're going to do a Q&A with the author, Christopher Hawkes, so please stick around for that and think about questions that you might want to ask Chris. and we will, you can pop them in the comments in the chat, and we'll ask those of Chris at the end. Okay, and Kim, over to you.
Thanks, Lynette. Look, I like to start this sort of thing off by saying I stutter. And interestingly, having said that, I probably won't stutter at all during this talk. That's one of the weird facts about stuttering. In fact, it's rare that I do stutter these days, and it's most likely to come around family. And that's weird fact number 2 about stuttering. This is pretty common to people who stutter. Not sure why. Maybe it's because family has a capacity to twist you out of shape. Probably less said about that, the better. But it does bring me to this book, The Miscreants, which is all about family and how it can twist you out of shape. I'm delighted to be able to launch this book today. I first came upon this book after Lynette sent it to me in 2019 as an unpublished manuscript. At the time, I thought it was the best unpublished manuscript I had ever read, and now it's a novel, and I still haven't come across an unpublished manuscript that's better than the one I read in 2019. It's a mesmerising piece of writing. The writing is exhilarating. To put it in a nutshell, it's the story of 2 brothers, Ethan and Harry. Harry is the younger of the 2. Harry starts the story off, and the story is told in 2 parts. So we get Harry's story in the first half of the book and Ethan's story in the second, bookended by a little glimpse outside of those 2 perspectives at the start and at the finish. But when we meet Harry as an adult, he's in Canada. He's in a loveless, half-hearted relationship with a young Canadian woman staying with her family, and he's looking for a reason to get out of Canada. A book arrives for him from his older brother, Ethan. It's a very odd book that has been written by the now deceased leader of a cult. Harry decides to go on a quest to find his brother. It begins a nightmarish odyssey fueled by drugs, sex, and self-loathing that will take him from Canada across to London, where he will visit his father, who's still living in the flat that they lived in when Harry and Ethan were both young. Over to Brighton on the coast, where he will track Ethan's last movements in England, across the Channel, through Denmark and Sweden, and into the Norwegian wilderness. This takes place over the span of a few months, and it takes him to the edge of the world. The book that he's been given, the book that was sent to him by his older brother Ethan, is written by the leader of a doomsday cult who believed a plague would visit the earth and only a few select people would be saved. Sound familiar? Yep, COVID-19 underlines this novel in a way that Chris wouldn't have known at the time of writing. That's Harry's story. And then we get to Ethan's story. And this is even odder in some ways. Ethan is a strange dude. He has a stutter. He has an intense feeling of self-consciousness. He does things like wear an all-white suit to school. Ethan believes his father, who he has never met, was that cult leader, was the leader of the Doomsday Cult. Unfortunately for Ethan, the only person who could verify this or not is his mother, who dies when the book opens, when they are both still very young. So Ethan's story is a story of a feeling of being marked, a feeling of being broken in some way. And he finds refuge among the now grown-up children of this cult leader at the end of the world. Miscreants is a story of two brothers on a collision course, both trekking inexorably toward a little community of miscreants at the edge of the world, all of whom are waiting for the world to end. This novel will take you to dark places, to a commune at the end of the world where things go violently, horribly wrong, and we see the full range of human behaviour. Chris writes beautifully about the damage we do to ourselves and those who love us. I'd like to read you a sample of what you'll find inside. This is part of Ethan's story. So Ethan has moved from London to Brighton to study, and he's really choosing his own adventure when he's studying, and getting into trouble with his tutors. Has been disciplined for speaking angrily to one of his tutors. It opens like this. The dark days before his faith. After the B, his grades lost meaning for him. He would go out with the exchange students, looking forward to the moment that they would forget he was English and talk in their own language, while he nodded and drank the cheap red wine and thought of his stepfather in London, his brother in Canada, and his mother in her grave. All his work, all those friendless years, and for what? He would disappear suddenly to stagger home along the beach, throwing stones at driftwood and bellowing when they hit, while the sluggish ocean slapped the pebbles to a wan rattle, sucking in and spewing out of the endless, mindless tide. He arrived for his counselling appointment ahead of time, talking. If only he had the conviction to pretend he was mute, but the words always pushed themselves forwards. Her reaction was the same as always for her type. The delicate smile as the rest of what he told her of himself became tinted with the green of his disability. But it was his family she asked about first. Do you have the support of your parents? My mother's dead. What about your father? I don't talk to my stepfather. And your biological father? What's this got to do with my course? I don't mean to upset you, Ethan, but a large part of the problems people present to me are contextual. This is usually a student's first time away from the nest, and things they might have perceived as normal their whole lives, they realise are just one way of seeing. And it's jarring. He sighed, fixed his eyes above her head, and sank into the familiar litany. I don't know who my father is, and I can't remember what happened before my mum met my stepdad and had heroin. She killed herself when we were little. My stepdad always liked Harry. And what is your relationship with Harry like? He's in Canada now. I used to take care of him, but he doesn't really need my help now. She frowned at her notepad like an astrologer asked to calculate the velocity of the sun. Ethan, you are in a very challenging place at the moment. It is your first time away from home and you need support, such that you have not yet found here. You are not the only one struggling. You are not the only one who feels alone. But if you're going to flourish here, there is an element of reinvention and a requirement to reach out. He nodded, agreed, let her blather on while his mind turned to a dream he had woken from. He was running along a hillside like a beast, using his hands and arms as paws and forelegs, chasing down prey. It was a dream of freedom because killers were that first. In his dream, the fact of his stuttering was left behind as soon as his knuckles struck the turf. We have to end here, she said, rousing him from his trance. But I'd like to see you again. And before we do, I'd like you to consider something. He nodded, knowing he wouldn't return. Is the lack of knowledge about your unknown father the cause of your resentment towards the family you actually have? No, he said. The arrow had found its mark and was heavy in his chest all day, the dark days before his fate. That's a sample of what you'll find inside The Miscreants. It's one of those rare books that is both beautiful to read and profound. It's a page turner, but it's packed full of insightful examination of human frailty. I commend it unreservedly. May it find its readers and sail forth into the world, to the edge of the world, with less misadventure than what befalls Ethan and Harry. Well done, Chris. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Cam. I'm just going to do a little clap there. Thank you so much for that amazing launch speech. We really appreciate that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a bit of Q&A with Christopher. So we have Chris waiting over here. I'm going to pop him up so you can see what he looks like. Hi, Chris.
Hi there.
So we've got a couple of questions here that we're going to start running through. So I will just ask away. So the first question is from Kristen, and she would like to know where the inspiration came from for the characters in The Miscreants.
Yeah, well, to start, like, thank you both for your kind words. You're both been a huge help in this, so thank you. The characters, I'm one of like three boys, and so the younger brother Harry, it's mostly based on me, but my younger brother Gary is dead sure that it's based on him. It kind of was, kind of is, but as I wrote, it kind of changed. He changed, and his story, changed him. That was a seed of him, but the seed grew and the seed changed. Ethan, as you can tell from my speech, is largely based on me. He's not a very sympathetic character, which I did fear at first, but he's kind of fun as well. He's based on my worst self. So I think that if I had a stutter and his childhood as well, whereas my childhood was very loving, I might have turned out more like him. But yeah, in large part, it's me, and to me his experience of stuttering has been my own.
Thanks, Chris. That just makes me wonder, something you said there about how he was not a sympathetic character. And actually, I might ask Cam to think about this too, because Cam's also written a novel with a character with a stutter. Did it worry you that people might look at him and think, well, here's this character with a stutter and he's really not very sympathetic? And is that in some way, I don't know, demonising or being derogatory towards people who stutter? Was that ever a concern for you, or were you just really interested in creating a fully rounded, interesting human being?
Yeah, it's a concern, but like I feel that when you are disabled, like me, to some extent. You get pushed into a get pushed into a ghetto of having to be extra nice. It's almost like to be accepted. You've got this flaw, so you have to be funnier, smarter, not nicer. And I find that a huge drag. And I think being the bad guy is quite empowering as well. It's like you can be disabled and be a jerk. You're free to be a jerk if you want to be. You can be kind as well, but he's not defined by it. He's defined by people's reactions to it, and there's a conflict in the book between him and another member from the group called James, and James has facial scars, and rather than them bond on being mutual outcasts, they in fact like fight, like war, because there's only one space in the group for someone with a handicap, and they are forced to fight for that space. And I just think that gives a much more complex and interesting view of disability.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That's a really interesting perspective, I think, to hear. Cam, did you want to add anything to that?
No, not particularly. I think Chris summed up things very well. I think the temptation is to write disabled characters who are all sweetness and light, but it doesn't work out that way. And I really think that Chris has been very courageous in his decisions around the character of Ethan, and I commend him for that as well. It's a brave thing to do.
Yeah. Thank you. Now we have some other questions here. One question is around all the different locations in the book. So we start off in the UK, we go to Canada, and then we come back to Europe and Scandinavia, and end up on a pathway through Scandinavia. And the settings really, that was one of the things that drew me to the book. It was amazing to read about these locations for me because I hadn't been to them. So I really enjoyed that. So I wondered, well, actually we have a question here about how you research those locations. But to me, it felt like you'd obviously been there yourself because they were created in such a way that they felt real to me. So I always assumed that you'd been there. So I'm interested to hear your answer on this too, Chris.
No. I have. When I left home at 18, I moved to Canada for a year, and my first girlfriend and her parents were very, very kind, and they put me up in in their basement. I was like this hopeless teen, and so they were very, very kind and took care of me. Returning from Canada, I went to Brighton, UK, and studied there for a year. And lots of the place that Ethan lives, his basement flat, is a flat that I had. And it was a horrible place, horrible, like dark and damp and grim. The second year of my degree, I wangled a course for them. They gave me like grants and things. It sounds mad now, but they sent me off to Sweden, and I lived in a small town there, and I had the money from like grants and loans I've not paid back still. And during that time, I travelled to Copenhagen and Lund, and then my last month there, I took Harry's mad drift like north on a train and went to the Lofoten Islands in the Arctic, and the fishing village I went to is a very eerie place. Very, very small. It's pretty, but the mountains are just so close to the sea that it is a very claustrophobic space. So when I wrote the book, it was kind of 10 years on from that trip, and so I kind of researched that through pictures online and maps, lots of maps. And I was very, very strict about that, and very, very strict about the times of the trains and the price of things. I think books with perhaps with a fantastic edge. You don't need to ground those in very concrete things, and so I worked very, very, very hard at the sense of place, and I'm glad that you feel that works.
Yeah, I absolutely do feel that works incredibly well. And in fact, the Lofoten Islands are one of the most photographed places in the world, I believe. And once you've seen that image of that sort of mountain on the edge of the water with the little village sort of at the bottom, it's really quite iconic. So it's an amazing setting for the story. We have some other questions here. There's a question about so Cam touched on this, the idea of the cult that Ethan was attracted to, and I know, Chris, you have an interest in doomsday cults. So can you tell us a little bit about that and why that was an important element to include in this story?
That's quite a niche taste of mine. Like doomsday cults, the Black Death as well, the plague. And when I was 21, I was in Scotland and seeing a friend, and it was when Hale Bop passed, the comment, how Bob? And I was like, oh, that's quite striking. And a month or so on, it came out that the Heaven's Gate cult had suicided because in their theology, they thought a spaceship was hiding behind the comet, and to ascend to the spaceship, they had to kill themselves when it was closest to Earth, and that always struck me. Very strange tale. And when I began to research cults more for out to my own interest and possible angle for the book. There's lots and lots of stories out there of people, with good education, quite smart. They have jobs and things like not lost souls, but who have somehow joined these groups and become embroiled. And through writing the book, I kind of answered for myself, like why, and it seemed mostly as this neighbor kinship, a need to be seen, a need to feel special, and just this Ethan seemed the prime candidate for that cult, and he seemed well equipped to manipulate it.
Yeah, so that idea that people looking for a hole to fill inside themselves, I know you've talked about that before.
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me was that Ethan in particular was driven to some pretty extraordinary acts. And we don't want to give away any spoilers, of course, but in the end, he does some things that I think most people would think are inexcusable. Was the cult a big part of that, do you think? Was that the influence of that group mentality? Was that what you think allowed Ethan and the other group members to do these things that, most people would think are morally abhorrent?
Yeah. Of course, and the fictional cult I make, that's based on lots of real cults, and the actions that he takes in the book. There's the Elm Shirinkyo cult, I think, and they were responsible for the sarin gas attack back in I think 2005 or something. But the events in the book have happened elsewhere, like through kind of these old dynamics. So yes.
It's interesting to think about that, isn't it? With the current climate of people responding, in unusual ways to things like lockdowns. But anyway, maybe we should stay right away from that and just focus on the book. We've got a couple of other questions about really sort of writing process, I suppose, and how long it took you to write the book. And I'm personally interested in what's behind you, because I can see on your wall, that is a writer's wall if ever I saw one before.
Pretty mad, isn't it?
Yeah, so can you talk to us a little bit about your process and what that is going on that wall behind you?
Okay, so the first book was a long road. The first half of the book, I actually, that was supposed to be its own book. And I did that, I wrote that, and I self-published that into 2010. The second book was supposed to be the second book of at first I thought three books, but I wrote that, and then it was quite short, and so an editor advised me to join both books up, and so I did that, and I rewrote it. And so I started writing the first book when I was like 24, 25. So I'm 45 now. So it was a long road. But I think with writing first book, you teach yourself how to. It's not something I think can be taught well in class. And so to teach yourself those skills, you just blindly go down dark streets, and you find dead ends, and then you have to back up, and you have to try the next straight. And gradually with time, you sense what roads might be dead ends, and so you take less of those streets, and things speed up. The first book, a lot of the time I spent at first on like missed drafts, like failed drafts, was because I had no arc. And segueing to the pictures behind me, they are butcher paper sheets, and they are describing the arc of the next book. And I've arranged it in. It's kind of something that might not work, but I've based the structure on Frankenstein, which is great book. I love it. And the structure of that book starts with a letter from a man on a boat, and then he finds Victor Frankenstein on the ice, and then Victor Frankenstein tells his story of how he made the monster. And then the monster confronts Victor Frankenstein, and he tells him his own tale, and he tells him what he wants from him. Then you cut back to Victor Frankenstein, and he tells the rest of his tale. And then both of monster and maker die, and the captain of the ship closes the narrative. And I worked on this all through lockdown from this space, and I just realized last week that probably won't work, so it's all a waste of time. But that's a dead end I took. But I think through the research, I found the characters, and I think found the voice as well. I also did watercolors, which I don't paint, so so they're kind of mad. But I put those up on my wall over here, as well as some grotesque postcards and plans and stuff. So yeah. Part of my process is visual, but they look like the scrawlings of a madman, unfortunately.
Thank you for showing that wall. That's really cool. I love those images. It's very cool. I don't know whether that's really depressing or really exciting that you've worked on this book for, is it nearly 20 years? Is that the right maths?
Yeah. There were breaks, but it's pretty much 20 years. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
I think that actually, I'm going to say that's really awesome, because I know, for a lot of aspiring writers, it is a really long road, and for most people to end up at a point of publication, it's many redrafts, it's rethinking the whole the structure, like you say, have I got an arc, have I got a plot, have I got character development. All those things don't come the first time you put pen to paper. They take a lot of time, and I always refer to it as marinating, because I feel like I put something on paper and then I have to walk away from it for quite a period of time to then come back and understand what's actually on paper. So I think it's really important for people who are starting out writing to understand that is a long process, and all that work that you do, like the work you've just described with your recent project, you've said that I'm probably going to throw out some or all of that. That is not wasted work. That is actually the essential work of getting to the end point that you need to be at.
Yeah. If you don't have to write, don't write, because it's a crazy venture. But if you do, you've just got to prepare for a long road. But it's not just about the book as well, the end book, like this project has stained me, and I've researched so much and read so much, and derive so much joy from parts of the process. I'm not a natural writer like my wife, Rain Collins writes as well, and she comes back from writing and she feels like charged up and like happy, and I feel like writing, I kind of have to do it. It feels like kind of like a plague bubo, and it kind of grows and grows, and if I don't write, I just feel worse and worse, and so I have to lance it. It's a bit grim, but once I've lanced it and you used all the blood and pus and ink, I don't feel as bad.
That's a beautiful image. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cam, I'm going to put you on the spot now. We're just about out of time, I think, but I just wondered, was there anything you wanted to ask Chris about anything about the project or the book itself? I know you guys have had a lot of chats about it, and you know it really well. But is there something that you wanted to ask Chris?
Look, I think you managed to ask all of the questions I've got. The big one that I had was, Chris, have you visited all these places? Because you do put them on the page in such an immediate way that the reader feels like they're there. And I actually, there is a question. So if you modelled yourself a bit on Harry, have there been police after you at some points in your 20s and 30s? Because Harry, you know, he steals money from people. He passes off dud checks. He does all sorts of stuff, which sort of reminds me of some of the things that my friends were doing. I had a friend who went to Amsterdam in the 1980s, and he took out 4 major credit cards before he went, took out $25,000 and then cut all the cards up and lived in Amsterdam for a couple of years. And just wondering if you've actually done stuff like that.
Look, I've got a slightly checkered past. I think the statute of limitations has passed now. So should be fine, I hope.
Good.
And we're not going to admit to anything illegal on air. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we've asked all the questions, and we've told you about this amazing book. So thank you so much to Cameron Rains and Christopher Hawkes for being here today. And thank you to all of you for watching. I really do hope that you go and buy this book, because it really is pretty extraordinary and pretty special, and it deserves a really wide readership. So go to your local bookshop. If they don't have it, they can definitely order it in. You can also buy it online from glimmerpress.com.au. The address is down the bottom of your screen at the moment. We know that in Melbourne at the moment, you may not be able to get out and about too much. So if you order online, we have a special launch price at the moment, which basically means that there's no cost for postage, essentially. So we can pop that in the post for you today or tomorrow, and you should have it in the next couple of days. Hopefully your lockdown lifts very, very soon, but if it doesn't, you will have this amazing book in your hands to read. So please support this incredible debut author, Christopher Hawkes, and go out and buy copies of The Miscreants. And thank you. I'm just going to pop you up quickly. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Goodbye, and thank you so much, Cam, as well.
It's a pleasure.
See you later. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.